Welcome to What the Heck's, your source for Warhammer Underworlds in under 30 magenta wrapped surprises. I'm your host, Skyler, and joining me today are my two co-hosts, Phil and Zach. Why don't you both say hi? We'll start with Phil, our loyal hound.
Hi, folks.
And Zach, are you feeling bloodthirsty or savage today?
I was just about to say, I've got 2 hunger tokens, so I'm definitely going to need to get something in the next round here, or I will be bloodthirsty.
Excellent. All right. Well, if you can't guess from the intro there, we're going to be talking about the rules update that just went live. So for context, today is May 31st. That puts the rules update under 3 days old, or about 3 days old. And there is a lot to unpack here. There are several documents that we've collated together for you for today's topic. We'll run down absolutely every change, big or small. And before we get into that, let's talk about community shoutouts. Does anybody have anything that they want to shout out today?
Yeah, I can go. If for whatever reason this is not enough content for you for reviewing the new rule changes, we've got 2 other community content creators who have some stuff about these. So if you head on over to a blog by the Staggerers, they have a balance change review. They got this up day of, so definitely very, very quick review. And actually same for the Critical Focus channel. I got a YouTube video up sort of showing the snippets and talking about each one. So pretty fun stuff. So if this episode's not enough for you, head on over, see those folks and get their ideas.
Absolutely. And along those lines, if you want a little bit of reading material about where we were right before this update dropped, Spent Glory came in and swooped in with an article here to say, here's the state that we're in, the changes that got us here, and kind of looking ahead at what we might see here. So it's a nice little primer, jumping in, understanding exactly where we're at. How about you, Zach?
I would say Set the Tempo has a new article out about something near and dear to my heart, which is counterplay, or things to not worry about counterplay. So go check that out as well.
We tend to push aside the one the hex is going on with you when we have topics this big to tackle. But let's take a minute to just check in with each other. Zach, what the hex has been going on with you?
I have been attempting to raid some Realmstone. It has gone, okay. I got a couple wins in, but I didn't feel like the deck performed all that well. Just headsman kill things, so that would how you expect.
Is it feeling more like headsman was responsible versus the deck itself?
Normally, I feel like the warband's like 50-50 with the deck in terms of how well it goes. This was more like an 80-20. Headsman killed everything, and then I scored a couple of objectives.
Well, since the last time you heard my voice on the cast was talking about Realmstone, I'll jump in real quick and just say that, man, is that not a deck I enjoy playing? I tried playing the deck that we built last time on the cast, and in all fairness, it performed well. I wasn't a great pilot. It was my first time playing, or one of my first times playing Borget. I think the first time ever. I've seen them across the field a lot. Played them poorly. Lost both my range 2 fighters early on, and they're pretty helpful with the deck that we built out. So was feeling that pretty hard. But it was my 5th game with Realmstone, and that's enough Realmstone for me. Like the deck was fine. Like I think it's probably a pretty fair and accommodating build for those who enjoy that deck. But afterwards, I was just done feeling for me, what feels like a chore when I'm playing that deck. And I unsleeved it and handed the cards back to Brian because that's actually his copy. And I was like, no, I'm good. So, which for me, that just frees me up to can like play what I enjoy. So I guess,
Yeah.
For those out there who maybe every once in a while find themselves in a situation where they're trying to make something work, but aren't having fun doing it, like life's too short. Grab something you enjoy playing. And, I'm not saying don't test yourself. Like, feel free to try things out and see if you can't explore different aspects and make them click. But if something's not clicking with you, there's a lot to explore in this game. So grab something else and have fun. How about you, Phil?
Well, I also did try one game playing with Realm Stone. I tried with Mollog, and I did not win, but it was an interesting experiment nonetheless. Rating was not too much of a problem for Mollog, but actually scoring and using my deck felt difficult. I might not have been doing it very well, but I certainly struggled. And then otherwise, I've just been playing more with Hexbanes because I've just been really enjoying the movement shenanigans with the dogs and just doing different sort of stuff, despite them not being super good. So, as you said, play what you love. Life's too short to not enjoy the game as you play it.
Hell yeah. Well, we're going to jump into the main topic today. So, brace yourselves. We've got an enjoyable episode covering core rules updates, FAQs, FAR, and buffs and nerfs. So there's quite a bit to chew on here, to the point where I think we're looking at an update full of things that are going to add up accumulatively. Like, I think when we're gauging any single change, it fits into the larger picture of all of these changes coming into play all at once. I think that'll be really interesting to talk about and dive into. But there's one thing in particular I thought would be fun to do at the top of this episode. I wanted to kind of use this as a teaser as we go in. Give me how you're feeling about this update, first impressions, on like a heat scale, hot, cold, anything you want to say just lightly, how it's landing for you, positive, negative. But then another thing I would like to do is say, and let's keep this vague because we're going to cover these things. This is a teaser. Like something that you're particularly excited about. Like, I think I know one of the things that Phil might be particularly excited about, most excited about, we'll say, and something that you're leery of, something that you really want to understand better, feel out, you're not quite sure about. So let's grab kind of where you're at, something you're most excited about, something you're leery about, and we'll kick off with you, Zach.
I'd say overall I'm feeling quite warm, not quite hot, but warm. I think there's some good changes coming on here. I'm interested to see how the new treasure token placement shakes out with everything. Thing I'm most excited about is that we got a new Death War band. I don't know if you guys caught that. They're called the Crimson Court. I don't think we had them before.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to play those gorgeous, gorgeous vampire models now.
Excellent. Anything you're leery about, or would you say that that's the token placement update that you're
token placement's kind of the leery, like, we'll see how this shakes out. I've been noticing you can kind of force tokens wherever you want if you place first now. So
all right. How about you, Phil?
Pretty similar. I mean, on the whole, I think these look like good changes. We'll have to see what happens with treasure token placement. I think just to throw something else out, I'm also curious to see what happens with Underdog. It's a change. I don't know if it's really going to affect the game in a big way, but it is a change, and we'll have to see what that means. And then I'm excited to see the warband that I've been just hanging out with a lot get a small buff. So that'll be fun to talk about when we get down there.
Absolutely. I would say, similar temperature level. I'm not leaning negative. I'm not like over the moon excited about everything here, but leaning towards excitement. I always enjoy something that shakes up the way that the community is thinking about the game. Hopefully, always in interesting ways. I'm the most positive about just seeing a healthy round of buffs in here, and I think not to touch on something that you two have already. So I'll say that I'm really curious to see where the FAR changes decks, like how that influences the meta as a whole. So excited to dig in. All right. Well, we're going to start at the top with the core rules. And I'm going to get, so there are 4 big core rule changes. 3 big core rule changes and 1 really small one. So I'm just going to get the really small one out of the way. There's been a clarification update to what classifies as a melee weapon versus a ranged weapon. And so you'll see that now in the rules. We have weapons with the melee rune mark, as you would expect, are melee attacks, and the ones with the ranged rune marks are ranged attacks. And I think how this differs from before, I'm guessing, is it used to say, like, and again, guesswork. I probably should have had the rules out for this, but I'm guessing it was like, hey, range 1 to 2 are melee, and range 3+ are ranged. And now it's just saying, hey, no. That's what we have the symbols for. That's my guess, anyways. But either way, very small clarification. It's something that I think we all understood, anyways.
Yeah, except for when they got the rune marks wrong. I was already,
which is like one of the erratas in here for Warband is just very simply Borget's Dreg, his ranged attack had a melee symbol printed on the card, and now it has a range symbol printed on the card. And it's like, okay. So very, very minor clarifications there for us. Things that we all understood to be true anyways. But
I am curious if this actually affects anybody right now. Is there anybody that could, maybe Ember Watch, they could have increased their range 2 to range 3 that would have changed it?
Yeah. I guess.
Or like Iron Souls. Like if they had if somebody was bringing along a range 2 weapon, okay, and bumping it up with Etheric Charge.
Does this? I wonder if this also affects Brethren because but that doesn't actually increase the range of their attacks. It adjusts
decreases
the distance between the fighters technically.
And I guess with Emberwatch and Iron Souls, I'm not sure if those abilities already said range 1 can get bumped up to range 2, or if it just said melee can get bumped up 1. And maybe that's where the this is not turning it into a ranged attack was coming in.
Super niche regardless.
Yeah. So let's jump into the more exciting things. So of the 3, there's 3 of us here. So Zach, I'm going to throw it to you. Which one would you like to cover?
Well, I already mentioned place treasure tokens, so I'm going to jump over to persisting abilities here. So add the following bullet point to persisting abilities. Abilities found on War Scroll cards and plot cards persist for the duration of the game unless specified otherwise.
Yeah, so that seems like a pretty sweeping change to the question that I'd seen everywhere, and the one that was hurting Borget's most notably, where in the rule book it very specifically stated persisting abilities that did not specify when they would ended at the end of the round, the current round. And so that meant we had trophy hunters ending after the first round, and arguably a ton of, you could look at a ton of different war bands and ask yourself, well, is this an ability that is going to end at the end of the round? Because maybe that clarification was hard to, that timing window was hard to identify whether or not it would classify as something that would be ending like that. And now it's very plainly here. Very, very glad to see that.
I think some folks in Vassal Discord did sort of point out that the one ability set right now that gets some sort of a positive boost from this that probably was not intended but is now going to work this way is for Brethren of the Bolt. Their hymns, they like activate one and it just persists. But because they do that every round, they're going to end up at the end of the game with all 3 of their hymns in effect. So
I was really excited to talk about this. So I'm going to jump off there because I want to believe this was intended because I think it's glorious.
It's pretty cool.
The idea that the hymn builds over the course of the game to this crescendo of like faith culminating and being like, building upon the faith that they have across the round. But then the ability also states that the hymns are only in play as long as there are 2 or more fighters. So once you are down to that last brethren, there's a crisis of faith, and the hymns and the power thereof abandon them. And I love that.
That is very flavorful. I honestly have never even looked at their war scroll, so I couldn't have possibly told you that was even a possibility, but it's very cool.
The abilities are unfortunately quite tame. Like I don't, which is
go
another
along with their tame stats.
Which is partly why I think this is as intended. Is you stack all 3 of those abilities together, and you're not doing anything tremendous. Like,
they're like,
yes, it's a buff for them, but I don't think it moves the needle all too much.
Yeah. I mean, they're certainly one of those warbands that you didn't see much, and probably for a good reason. So maybe, hopefully, this is enough of a little boost that somebody's willing to trot them out and play them a little bit more now.
Well, I know I'm going to lovingly give them another go with their wet paper bag defense stats.
Might be a little too generous.
And I know Andy will as well.
Very fair.
Shout out to you, Andy.
I guess thinking about this ability, the only thing that I hope is that as this change was being made, there wasn't anything already in the pipes for like new content coming down the road that like was unintentionally going to last longer than intended, because that would be pretty unfortunate. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they don't have anything coming up soon that's going to suddenly be broken because of this change.
I was pretty curious about this as a blanket change and grabbed my copy of every war scroll we have so far, and physically, and like was thumbing through them, trying to find examples of where this might have unintended consequences, and like you described, Brethren was the only one that I could find as well. Whereas it just kind of seems to be maybe how they always believed this to work. Because I was surprised how often I found like the endpoints described on the war scrolls, like this ability is only through the round. So with Borgets coming out recently and being a new war band, it kind of feels like they were designing with the intent that war scrolls go through the end of the game unless they state otherwise. So I doubt we'll see something coming out that's going to have an unintended consequence, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
I think so too.
It'll be interesting.
Well, Phil, how about you? Well, actually, you know what? Before we leave here, and I think we're all in agreement here, but good change, bad change. I think all thumbs up from the 3 of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Good change. Just common sense, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, which of the remaining 2 would you like to tackle, Phil?
Oh, let's just get the big one out of the way. So this is placing treasure tokens. This is going to be a change to say now. The player who did not pick their territory shuffles the feature tokens with the numbered side face down. Following the restrictions below, players then place their feature tokens as follows. The player who did not pick their territory places one feature token numbered side down in an empty hex. The other player then places one feature token numbered side down in an empty hex in neutral territory. Then players alternate placing feature tokens numbered side down in empty hexes. So essentially what this is saying is when you do the first roll-off, the player who wins places the board as usual, and then the other player, instead of having to start by placing a token in neutral territory, they get to place one wherever they'd like, and then the player who won the roll-off has to place one in neutral territory. Because they are forced to place that second token in neutral territory, and they only get to place 2 tokens, 3 tokens from the player who didn't win the board's roll have control of wherever they'd like them to go. And that means that if they really want to, they can load up one half of the board with 3 tokens. And then the other player is forced to place it in the empty other side. So as we sort of mentioned at the top, this is the one we're feeling the most sort of unsure about. I guess I'll just say for myself, I think most of the time, this is probably going to end up playing out the same as it has previously. But with the player who didn't win the board having a little more agency. Where it probably starts to feel a bit more oppressive is in like a tournament setting where you know exactly how you need to counter your opponent's deck pairings because you know what those are, and you then have the ability, if you need to place the tokens in such a way that your opponent's going to have a much harder time. It's still too early to say, but I think that is overall the concern.
Yeah. How you feeling, Zach?
Having got to play Headsman with the new rules, and Headsman really want your opponent to come to you so you can kind of just push around and take 3 and 4 damage attacks over and over again. Being able to put 3 in my territory guaranteeably felt super strong. We'll have to see as time goes on if people are able to kind of counteract that. But I kind of agree with Phil. Most of the time it's not going to matter too much, but in certain matchups it will be a big deal.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the cadence that we saw before felt like it strictly favored the person that won the roll. Like it felt like
100%.
Yeah, because they're getting the board decision. They're getting to see which spot you're going to put in middle because you have to, and then they essentially get first placement as a result of it. You could kind of say because they're the first open placement, and so they can start forcing positions, getting their favorite positions, all that kind of things before, and then they're also the one that's not placing the last token, so they're not the first player to position on the board as well. And so with their fighters, so they're getting all of the benefit of the roll off before. And so this feels like it's meant to address that because you very much so feel in the driver's seat on the token placements now when you have 3.
Yeah.
Strictly. And for me, so I think aggro now loves losing that roll off. Everybody does. Has it become do you want to lose the roll off?
I think it's still too early to say. I think the gut reaction is like, oh yeah, now I just want to lose the roll off. But there is still something to be said about choosing board facing and orientation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It still matters. It's not inconsequential. So, I don't know that I always want to lose it. There are times where I know that I really don't want to be playing on a wide board. So I think it's interesting. I think the other thing is that in tournament play, because you're going to play more than one game most of the time. Now, some tournaments are best of 1, but I think that's not the norm. Both players will get the same advantages at least once. So if it is a effect on the game, at least both players will end up having it. So you can't really say that it's like completely unbalanced in that sense. I don't know that it's better or worse than how it was before. It's still so early.
So early. Yeah.
I mean, it does feel like aggro probably are the ones who will be like, to Zach's point, it's like, I want you to come to me so I can punch you in the face without charging. And you will now have the ability to kind of force your opponent's hand.
Yeah, I think so aggro as a play style is like, okay, so I win the roll off, and like not much has changed for me. Like I have to come to you. I lose the roll off, and now I can really force you to come to me. But there's enough stuff in the game that is looking for you to be in enemy territory when you're executing your aggro game plan.
That's so kind of true.
Yeah, like, or we can force the fighting to be entirely in your territory now. If I put 3 tokens over there and you want tokens, we're just all going to be over there now. So
yeah. Well, so like the other play styles, like, you know, if you're flex, you're probably like middling affected by this. But if you're hold game plan, whereas aggro can kind of shake off the less preferred outcome, a hold game plan is going to have, like, if you're playing 2 games back to back and you're flipping who won it, you know, one of those games you're going to get like a totally ideal picture, and the other game is going to be an uphill picture where theoretically, you know, if they want to, they can force you to have only one in your side, and then you have to cross the line to get the rest. But, you know, one of the observations you made on Thursday night, Phil, was you walked around, everybody aware of and interested in testing out this new rule, and all of the tables were 2-1-2.
Yeah.
Right.
And some of that might have been the way the rolls went, and that the player who had the 3 didn't actually care to have all 3 in their territory. So maybe that's why. But yes, that was my observation, is that first games of the night, nobody was like skewing all the 3 into one territory.
Yeah. Well, we won't linger on this topic too much longer. But it is, I think, the biggest change in here, and you know, it's certainly going to be the one that impacts absolutely every game, whether negligibly or whether it has a big effect on the game. It'll be present in all of our games going forward. And it comes with a lot of interesting pieces to it, right? Like you can now decide if you want to put your first one in no one's territory and force there being 2 in no one's territory. And, you know, there will be things in the game like scoring just over the line, right? Like today, a lot of the times you'll see that 1 token placed just over no one's into enemy territory as a scoring platform for you. And, you know, those cards are still in the game. So how much are those going to still push like a commonly seen 2-1-2 placement?
Yeah.
Any other feelings, thoughts you want to express before we jump on?
I think just the other thing that I've felt, especially now with this change, is that like the game is not particularly friendly to hold right now. We only have 1 true hold deck, which some other changes that we'll talk about later also make things a little harder if you're playing Emberstone. And then with token placement changing, it's just, you know, I really hope that whatever the next deck is going to be more hold focused, just so we can try and balance out the play styles. Because like aggro's got a lot of tools, even if some of them are pretty obviously better than others, but like they have a lot of tools. Flex, I think, has a lot of tools. Hold is like looking for what they can pair with Emberstone.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see a hold as our next deck there. How about you, Zach?
Kind of same thoughts. As we'll see later, the Emberstone's best pairing or one of their better pairings kind of got destroyed, decimated. So we'll see how Hold fares in the new landscape, and hopefully we get another Hold deck here that can work with it or work with something else to really open up that play style.
Well, I think I'll end this place treasure tokens change with a thought experiment, because it's one that's been on my mind since reading the change on Wednesday and seeing how everybody's feeling about it. I wonder why we're so married from a design standpoint to ensuring that one of the players puts a token in no one's territory. I wonder if instead of what we received as a rules update here, what it would have been like to have lifted that particular restriction instead of moving it, to the second placement player. If it was, you're placing 3 and the one who placed the boards is placing 2. And if they want one in no one's territory, it's up to those players, because it's not something that can be blocked by the first token placement. So if it's something that a player truly needs, they have opportunity to game plan for that and include it. So I wonder if instead that would be the token placement world that I'd like to live in. I'm still ruminating on it, but that's something I've been thinking about.
Fair.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, the last change to cover here is Underdog. So, with Underdog, what it's changing to is if one player's slain friendly fighters have a greater combined bounty characteristic than their opponents, that player is the underdog. Otherwise, there is no underdog. Certain abilities can only be used if a player is the underdog. So changing from whoever is the current glory leader to whoever has the most dead fighters, particularly the bounty values of those dead fighters added up together. This is fascinating. I think this is the first thing I feel in reading this change is it's going to be so much cleaner, at the very least, good or bad. It'll be very easy to tell who the underdog is, and there won't be any bookkeeping mistakes by that neck and neck situation where are you tied at glory? Is one person ahead by 1 or behind by 1? Is there an underdog? It can be so dependent on making sure that everybody's grabbed all of the glory that they're owed and are representing that very cleanly for both players to tell. It removes all of that. It removes the bookkeeping element of underdog. It's very visible now, which I like. I think this is a pretty fascinating change. It definitely adjusts the value level of cards that look at underdog. It makes you think about them in a different way, and I'm excited to play with this a lot and see how often it feels like it's still serving its namesake. I feel if you're down on model count, then you're contributing to your underdog status, right? And if you're down on model count, you have less action economy. So you have less fighters that you can do something with, and potentially less key fighters that you can do something with, especially if you're down 1-3, value fighter and they're only down 1-1 value fighter. Yeah, I think as far as what you have on the board to work with, you are behind. What do you guys think? I don't want to hold the mic. I've got some more thoughts to share here.
I've been thinking about it a little bit, and I think my favorite part about the change is not having surprise underdog changes when somebody's like, I score this surge, so now I'm ahead by 1, which means I just made my opponent the underdog, which now means they're going to be able to do something more than what they previously were, where it's like, ooh, maybe I should, like, not that I really had a choice because you got to score your stuff, but it's like, oh no, now this might, like, my 1 point ahead lead now might be putting me in a pretty bad spot. And it's not necessarily because, like, I did anything that made my opponent really behind me. It was just the like back and forth nature of the game, right? So I kind of like that as a change where it's like less sudden, the shifts between underdogs. But on the flip side, I do think that this is like a sneaky buff in the early stages of the game to hordes. And I think
I would agree strongly.
In particular, seeing Zarbags and Grimwatch probably benefit from this the most is going to be interesting, to say the least. We'll have to see how it shakes out. I'm not really concerned with Grimwatch. I think Grimwatch often had ways of, like, using the fact that they have very fragile fighters to end up being behind by a little bit of glory, then being able to, like, in the name of the king, jump back in with a fighter who's getting inspired and raised, and then, like, sort of keep that rolling. So, like, I'm less concerned about them. I don't really love the idea of, like, Zarbag losing 1 or 2 little goblins right away and then suddenly being the underdog for the next however long. Because, like, if they're not even trying to kill you, there may not be a way to, like, take it back.
Yeah, they may just be underdog all game,
which may or may not matter. Well, like I said, we'll have to see. But it's an interesting change. I'm not opposed to it. Like I said, I think there's benefits to having it work this way. It is just very different. So, I don't know. What do you think, Zach?
This is a change that definitely hurts aggro. So if we were concerned about the token placement maybe being slightly better for them now, this is a spot where they get hurt by it, simply because you won't be underdog probably at any point during the game. So your determined efforts that gave you more dice if you were underdog or scoring branching fate easier, it led to some weird spots where I had those cards in hand and just couldn't get full value out of them, or in case of branching fate, just bricked it for a while, even though I was down 3 or 4 glory, which normally would have felt like a great spot to be in because now I can score easier, get more kills. But so that'll hurt it a little bit. We'll see if it's enough to hurt it, if it really makes that big of a difference. But I certainly felt it a little bit in the first couple of games.
Yeah, I find that interesting. It's one of those aspects where it feels like it's hard to look at each piece of this puzzle independently. It feels like a lot of these changes are slotting in with each other. Because another thing I find fascinating about this underdog change is its relationship with resurrection. I love it. Like, I find it really fascinating that a player that has the ability to resurrect, like the headsman, if they keep their fighter dead, they have underdog benefits. And if they bring that fighter back, then they're foregoing those underdog benefits. I do think, like, we're going to see this matter the most during roll-offs, which, again, I think I like. So if you're down on fighters, you're more likely to kick off the round. I think I like that a lot. But it also is going to result in a lot more ties on roll-offs. Like when we're both at equivalent bounty values and we both roll hammer, and then it's like, okay, let's re-roll. Okay, and hammer again. Okay, let's re-roll. which is fine. It's just kind of funny.
I mean, I've only played the one game with the changes, but I actually found that it pretty much, in the game that I was playing, it was like one player ended up getting it and then they just held it the entire game. Because like I was doing more killing than they were, and so then there was really no way for it to shift back and forth. But that will certainly be different in certain matchups. And like you said, with Resurrection, that'll probably shift it because suddenly you'll have fewer fighters dead, which would be interesting to see how that shakes out. I don't know. I think if Underdog had always worked this way, I don't think anybody would bat an eye at it. I think it would be like, yeah, cool, that makes sense. Like, I've got more fighters dead, I should get some benefit. But just having it change in a pretty substantial way, it'll be interesting to see how people feel about it after they play with it some more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think largely we're leaning positive on this change.
I think I'd probably say like neutral leaning positive. My gut says positive, but like I think it maybe just will be it'll be different. I don't know if it'll be better or worse.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I think I'm there too. It changes how we think about Underdog so fundamentally that we're going to need some time with it, right?
Yep.
Like today you bring cards because you're like, oh yeah, I'll probably be on the knife's edge of Underdog here and there, and I'll take advantage of that. Whereas we're going to have to look at how often you're going to feel comfortable relying on the Underdog part of cards. There are going to be warbands better suited for it, and warbands that are like, very aggro focused and like, no, like if this card isn't giving me enough benefit on its own, I can't afford to bring it for that Underdog swing because that means I'm too far behind. Or maybe that's exactly why you bring it. Is you're like, when I'm behind, I'm going to need this. It's interesting. So, all right. Well, that wraps up our core rule changes, which again, persisting abilities on War Scrolls. So if it doesn't specify a duration, then it's lasting the whole game. Underdog now being based off of the combined bounty characteristic of our slain fighters, and the treasure placement token seeing a shakeup where it is the second placed token that must go in no one's territory. So that's the player that got board's decision. So now we move on to some frequently asked questions. The one I'm going to kick off with here for us is, and I kind of organized these for us, so we'll just popcorn them down what I've gathered up for us. I rearranged them a little bit from how you see them in the document because I thought there was a bit of a flow here with some of them, the way I've ordered it. But kicking us off, it's an update to a rule that had me scratching my head before. So I'm really glad to see this updated. The core rules state that an action step ends after the chosen core ability is resolved. What happens if a player uses a surge ability that allows a friendly fighter to attack again after a failed attack? Does this new attack happen in the same action step or after it? So this used to say that it would happen in the same action step. It was somehow like extending the action step. And that was quite the head scratcher for me with that leading sentence of an action step ends after the chosen core ability is resolved. So they've come in and they've updated this with the answer that second attack is part of a surge ability and is resolved after the action step, which makes a lot of sense to me. So for those who've been playing version 1 or came from version 1, this is how we always understood it to be. And I think it's how it was intended to be here in version 2, because there were other things in the FAQ that made you believe once you had completed your core ability, that action step was done. There was like over, and therefore starts your trigger window for all of the abilities that would key off of that moment. Yep. And when you would insert a like re-attack in there, all of a sudden it's like, wait, what about the other stuff I wanted to trigger here? And so it was a bit muddy before. It felt like this was kind of just the wrong answer previously. So I'm glad to just see it updated.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear that like this is how it has to be. I think the one that came up frequently before was unassailable, and like asking the question like, well, what if I have some sort of a surge ability that lets me get onto a token after I've been driven off, or like what if I any number of different things that trigger after the attack. And it's like, well, it doesn't matter, it's already too late, it already happened. Like the check happens right as the activation is over. By the time we're in surge window, the scoring checks have already happened, it's too late, and this just follows that precedent. So I think it's a good change.
Agree. Zach, why don't you tell us what changed with plain ploys? Well, not changed. Give us the sweet Q&A here.
Question. Can you define when a ploy card has been played? Answer. A ploy card has been played when it is revealed.
So, given that, we were unsure, just kind of as a community. I saw this question a lot. You would see cards like Canny Sapper, which is the subject of our next question here, where this would really matter, because is the card considered played the moment you see it come into play, or do you first have to resolve all of its text? And now we know as soon as it comes into play before the resolve parts of it, which another thing in the FAQ that kind of supports this was how they intended it to work was when they were describing how you would sequence cards. It was like, hey, you play all of the cards that you're going to do like in the same window. So if I've got 3 things that are all going to happen at the same time, I play all 3 of those, and then I resolve them in the order that I want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so knowing that, this feels like just formalizing it even clearer, because there were cases where it was like we as a community kind of had to assume this to be true, and now it's nice to just have it all formalized for us. Yeah. So, Phil, you want to grab the next one?
Yeah, so continuation of the previous ones is sort of a question that requires the previous answer to have this answer. So, question, can I play a card that requires a specific condition, like 2 fighters being adjacent, when that condition is not part of the current game state, even if a surge effect that would resolve before that card would create the required condition? So, for instance, can I play Confusion when there are no fighters adjacent, but the effect of Canny Sapper would make 2 fighters adjacent? And the answer to this is no. And as we previously saw, the reasoning there must be that because you are playing the card as soon as it is revealed, and you can't play cards when they wouldn't be able to take effect. I think what could be confusing with this one is that if you have an effect like, say, Sidestep, and you actually want to use it post teleport from Canny Sapper, that is going to work, because the Sidestep could have taken effect before the Canny Sapper. So it's good that they make the stipulation that like the card in question was Confusion, where you need a specific game state to play it. Whereas cards that like you could always play anyway will still be able to have like a delayed effect because you have this interrupting surge ability happening before they resolve.
Yeah, it's almost like they picked a very specific game state with Canny Sapper to answer like 2 questions, or like a bunch of questions all at once about how Canny Sapper works and about how like you can't use the effect of one card to fulfill requirements of another card, like all at once. Instead of saying, like, I think they could have easily done 3 or 4 questions and been like, okay, so if I can, if I can play Confusion right now, there's 2 enemies hanging out adjacent to each other, or 2 fighters in general. Can I play Confusion, trigger Canny Sapper, use that to reposition a fighter? I've got 2 new targets for Confusion. Can I now pick the 2 new targets for Confusion? And that answer is yes. And I think that we could have seen like multiple questions spell this out. Instead, they really kind of like boiled it down to how do we address this all in one question? Is my guess here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably right.
And Candy Sapper continues to just be hot fire.
So
I love that card.
Very good card. No more needed to say there.
All right. So then the next question that we get for clarification here is, can I use abilities with the timing after a core ability after the move or attack parts of a charge? No. A charge is defined as a single core ability that contains a move and an attack. Although move and attack are each core abilities when used independently, they are the charge core ability when used together. This one is near and dear to me as an Ilthari player. This is thankfully how I've always understood it and how I've played it, because Ilthari gets to plant seeds after they use a core ability, right? So when I would charge and finish that charge, I'd plant a card. I wouldn't charge, plant a card after the move, and then attack, plant a card after the attack. So it's nice to see this formalized. I think that this was something that was confusing because there isn't anything else like this in the game. But I've always felt that the rulebook supported this, that you're not, when you choose to use the charge core ability, that's your core ability. You only get the one core ability in that space there, and it's allowing you to move and it's allowing you to attack. So this is just nice to see.
Yep, pretty straightforward, but hopefully clarifies things for people.
Yeah. All right. Who wants to grab the next one, Zach?
Yeah, I got it here. What happens if I say that my fighter is going to charge a target that is out of range of my fighter's normal move characteristic, and then I play Wings of War so they can reach the target? But my opponent uses Shut It, Pipsqueak, to stop the effect of the play. That fighter cannot charge and must use the move core ability instead.
Now this one just makes me laugh.
Somebody must have had this happen to them and be like, so now what?
Yeah.
I actually don't think there's anything in the game that supports this ruling outside of the fact, like, oh, like, we need an answer here.
Yeah.
So now we have the precedent, right? So if you were going to go start a charge and it gets canceled, then instead you have to use a move, which could be quite punishing. It could mean that you can't charge out then.
Yeah.
I wonder if this was supposed to be like, you didn't have anybody you could charge without using Wings of War. So therefore you can't complete a charge. So now you have to do a move. But the way this reads, it's actually saying you had intended to charge to a specific target, but now you can't. So now you just can't charge at all, which isn't really the way that charges work. Charges don't target. Charges are just like, you will move up to your move value and then make an attack at the end.
Oh, interesting.
So if you had like 3 possible charge targets, but the one you wanted to get to is like 5 hexes away and you needed Wings of War to get there, in the weird edge case that you are playing against Morgox and they use Shut It Pipsqueak to shut down your Wings of War or whatever effect is giving you bonus movement, for whatever reason, those closer opponents you can't charge now. And like, that's sort of a weird way to write this answer. So, I doubt
how's Wings of War written?
It's a surge when you make a move. I believe you get to add 2 to your move.
Yep. Play this immediately after you pick a fighter to move. That fighter has +2 move for that move.
Okay, so I guess you're not really declaring a target yet.
No.
So
declaring that you're going to use the charge ability really never targets anything. So it's a very strange ruling. I understand like they wanted to clarify this very niche case, but the answer is very weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if I saw somebody shut it pipsqueak, and they could reach somebody else, I'd be like, yeah, just go to the other fighter. Like, I don't think this says that they can't. I think it's really just trying to describe when the only target or targets, are then rendered out of range.
I would agree, but that's not what the words that they wrote say. So unfortunately, if it comes up in a tournament and it matters, somebody can make the ruling that you can't actually make a charge now, which is weird. Probably won't ever come up. It's a very, very niche case. So
yeah, and to close the loop on Shut It Pipsqueak and kind of when ploys count as played, we have the next question here. When does an ability like Shut It Pipsqueak stop the effect of a ploy? It stops the effect when the ploy is revealed and before it is resolved. Yeah, so like tossing out Wings of War before you even get the +2 move and get the opportunity to start moving your fighter, then that card fizzles. It goes away.
Yep.
Which I think probably, I don't know. I hope nobody does what you're describing, because I feel like you haven't committed to a choice of target yet, so they who can really say who you're going after.
That's what the FAQ says, though. But yes, I think the clarification for Shut It Pipsqueak overall is good. It's the only effect in the game that does something like this, and so we need to have rulings about like what happens when a surge is interrupted.
Yeah. All right. Phil, why don't you grab the next one for us?
Yeah, this one's really simple. It's just asking, can a fighter equipped with Bellowing Tyrant use the upgrade's core ability if they have no charge tokens? And the answer is no. And Bellowing Tyrant does say a fighter with a charge token can use this core ability, and then they get to push 2 other fighters with charge tokens and remove one of the charge tokens. So it's just clarifying that like the clause on there that says they can use this with a charge token is to say that they need to have the charge token to use it.
Only the fighter with the charge token can use it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not saying either if they have or have not a charge token. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Cool. And I'll just round this out real quick for us so we can jump on to the next super juicy topic. Last question here. If I use the Unstoppable upgrade to reduce the damage inflicted by the Misfortune upgrade to 0, can I still equip another friendly fighter with the Misfortune upgrade? Yes. So this is, I believe, a new precedent for us on when damage is considered to be inflicted, because Unstoppable says something along the lines of, here, I can actually just pull it up. Something along the lines of you're taking the damage is still being inflicted. It's just reducing it to 0. Yeah.
I think it's like, well, yeah, just read it verbatim.
While this fighter is vulnerable, each time 1 damage is inflicted on this fighter, reduce that damage to 0. So this is saying, yeah, damage is still inflicted. Unstoppable still says it's inflicted. It's just reduced to 0. Misfortune is a card that is triggering off of inflicted damage. So can I still use the effect of Misfortune even though that inflicted damage was reduced to 0? Yes. And yeah, this is probably got some additional impact to warbands like Gore Chosen, where if they're rocking Unstoppable and they're vulnerable and you hit them, you're still inflicting damage on them. So they're going to get their Blood Tithe, I believe, is what that's called.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, one of those things that it's a niche interaction. It's not going to come up, for a lot of folks, but for those folks it's going to come up for, it's going to matter. So good to see. Yeah. Overall, that's actually pretty light on the FAQ side of things. That's only, let's see, about 10, 11 questions answered for us, which I think goes to show that that's less the focus of this update and more getting necessary clarifications out for folks.
Yeah.
So coming up, stay tuned. We're not going anywhere. We have an errata on the plot card for Countdown to Cataclysm to cover. We've got Forsaken and Restricted list to cover, and I think the thing I'm the most excited to cover here is the warbands as well. So, Zach, I stole that last question from you. So let's have you jump into the Countdown to Cataclysm change.
Good. I wanted this one more anyway. So the change here, we'll boil it down to the easy version since it's a long card to read, but it's
Agree.
just the middle paragraph that has been changed, so we'll just go through that quick. So it now says you must advance your Cataclysm tracker one step the first time a friendly fighter is slain in each combat phase, and you must advance your Cataclysm tracker one step after the last power step in each battle round for each treasure token that has no enemy fighters on it. The change here being the words must. Used to be an option, used to be able to kind of fine-tune what you were doing with the Cataclysm value. Now you have to go up.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
That narratively, I'll say right out of the gate, this makes a lot more sense to me.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Before I didn't know what was happening with that fuse. Like, how did you have such fine control of like, wait, no, lick your fingers, hold the fuse, okay, relight it.
Very, very anticlimactic in some senses, where it was just like, wait, what are we counting down to? Nothing's gonna happen. So definitely matches the expectation more here. I don't know. Zach, what do you feel in terms of the impact of this change, though?
This, I think, mainly impacts one objective, that being Wreckers, which you needed enemy fighters damaged or slain equal to your Cataclysm value. Previously, you would kind of hold your Cataclysm value back in order to make that card easier. Now it just means you got to hit a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I think that is definitely the big one. I think the other one that could end up being a problem for this one is that, like, now if you draw into what's it called, the surge where
collateral damage.
Yeah, collateral damage. So that one got sort of hit in two ways, because normally it says if you advance the tracker because a fighter dies, you can score this. And then if you're the underdog and you advance for any reason, you can score this. Well, now if you had a fighter die and then you drew into the card, because the tracker only advances once per round from a fighter dying, you've missed that window. And if you're not the underdog, you won't be able to score it from the other way. So it like slightly slows down that surge in niche scenarios, but Wreckers is certainly the one that gets hit by it the most. And Wreckers is a 2 glory end phase, so I think that is warranted and something to consider now when you're trying to build with Countdown.
Yeah, and that because you used to just use the fine motor control specifically for Wreckers, right? Where you just hang out in one on the precipice of dipping into two until you scored Wreckers for 2 points, and then you jump over the line so that you could go score Spread Havoc for 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this deck kind of got a reputation for having 4 free glory, just for bringing the pot card along with you.
Yeah.
Whereas now that's definitely not the case. I think Wreckers is like, if you were to describe that card now, it's a race card now, because if they only have 3 enemy fighters, then you need to make sure that you're able to score this in end phase if the number of damaged and or slain enemy fighters is greater yet than your Cataclysm value. Yeah, so if they've got 3 fighters across the table from you, this card gets a lot harder because you have to make sure that you're scoring this before your Cataclysm value hits 3.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not scoring it at all.
Yep.
Which I think
so that's it.
Feels appropriate.
Yeah.
Still a good card,
I mean,
right?
When I first read the card, I thought that's originally, like, when we were first acquainting ourselves with version 2, what this said. And I still thought it was a decent card. It was probably the type of card that you mulligan for.
Mm-hmm.
Now you really do.
Yeah. Type of card that the Crones probably still run, I would think.
I would think most warbands will still probably run. It's still 2 glory for a reasonable ask. It's just now going to be a little harder in round 1.
Yeah. Probably depends on how reliable your ability to inflict damage is. So, like, if you could only do it with attacks and you only have fighters that are like flat 2 hammers with no rerolls and no way to boost anything, like, it's probably not super reliable. But if you've got some pings or if you've got really accurate attacks, you can probably spread out damage as you need to, and you can kind of force it. So I think that's actually like a sweet spot for end phase scoring, where it's like it's not an automatic inclusion, and you will have warbands that are like, ooh, this feels a little risky for me, and maybe I won't take this one. So I like it.
Yeah, I do too. I think the like overall, this change isolated, very positive on it. I think the next change is going to impact like this card even more, though, right? And that's our far list. So let's jump into that. I'll run down the far list for us, and then I'll be curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this. So Nemesis, Forsaken, and Restricted list. Forsaken cards cannot be included in any deck, Forsaken cards cannot be included in any deck used in a Nemesis format event. So this was the case before, and we had 4 cards that were Forsaken. But the change here is restricted cards can be included, but you can only include 1 restricted card across your Nemesis objective and Nemesis power decks. So Forsaken, previously, we had Get It Done, Fury of Akshi, Utter Ignorance, and Blade Catcher. Today, it's those same 4 minus Blade Catcher. Blade Catcher is no longer Forsaken. It is moved over to the restricted list, but Get It Done, Fury of Akshi, and Utter Ignorance still straight out. Restricted. Good. Strong agree. But restricted list, we have Blade Catcher, Delving for Wealth, Illusory Fighter, Mobbed, Spread Havoc, and Supremacy. And I'm going to run down that list one more time to let it soak in for viewers, and I'm going to add what deck they're from, because you'll notice there's only ever a single inclusion from a deck. So we have Blade Catcher from Reckless Fury, Delving for Wealth from Pillage and Plunder, Illusory Fighter from Blazing Assault, Mobbed from Edge of the Knife, Spread Havoc from Countdown to Cataclysm, and Supremacy from Emberstone Sentinels. What do you guys think about this?
Well, maybe I have plenty of thoughts. I think maybe the best way we can do this is to go through each card individually. So I guess, how about we start with Blade Catcher? Zach,
okay.
Do you have any immediate thoughts on Blade Catcher coming off the Forsaken list and going to the restricted side?
I think this is probably actually fine for Blade Catcher. Blade Catcher is obviously really good. For those that haven't seen it for a while, since it has been Forsaken, quick read through what it does. Let me grab the deck. Blade Catcher says, while this fighter is the target of an attack, the attacker cannot use weapon abilities. So this would include stuff like Cleave or Grievous, or if a warband had specific abilities on their War Scroll. Yep. Obviously very powerful. We have similar less good ones in some other decks where you can't be cleaved or ensnared. So just it is obviously just the best version of that. So I think a restricted is a fine spot for it. And as we run through the other ones, I'd be curious which ones you guys would take over Blade Catcher in that pairing, just as a thought experiment too.
Yep, I think that's a good thing we can revisit at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Blade Catcher is, like, of those four, probably the one least deserving of being Forsaken. So Restricted, I think, makes a lot of sense. I don't know that you'd really feel safe bringing any of the other ones back. Fury of Akshi, I think, especially, is always really brutal. So I think that one feels perfectly appropriate for Reckless Fury. I mean, the deck is still pretty much hamstrung. It's super hard to build a power deck from that deck, but it can still do some work. It has some good objectives. So
Yeah, and I think so when it was restricted, when it was Forsaken, that was at the height of like 3-fighter aggro elite, especially Gorcho's in front and center there, obviously. And so, Blade Catcher, I think the biggest thing it does, yes, it does, turn off cleave and snare and all of the other like niche weapon abilities, but it turning off Grievous, I think, is so huge. Like, I think that's the paramount thing that this card does. If it said alone, I turn off Grievous, it would still be a great card because there are plenty of stat lines in the game that are balanced around the damage bump that it can take on, having Grievous coded into it. Whether you're an attack of 2 going up to 3, or an attack of 1 going up to 2, those are going to be the most common. You put Blade Catcher on a fighter, and all of a sudden, that's 2 or 1 damage when you're coming in on that fighter exclusively, and that makes taking them down a lot harder. And when it was Forsaken, what I'm trying to circle back to here is that there were a lot of 5 health fighters, and so that's taking instead of a chance at 2 attacks to take him down, it's like, no, I'm gonna have to try 3 attacks with my average 2 damage profiles to try to get them down, and that's if those all hit. So now it can be a whole round of barrages to take a 5 health fighter down if they're rocking Blade Catcher. It's a very strong card, but I wouldn't disagree with its inclusion here. Like, I think giving I'm excited to see more play from this deck, I suppose, and I think that bringing this out to play is a way to accomplish that. We were all sick of Reckless Fury for a minute there, but or at least I was.
people who got to play at Worlds and had to be inundated with the barf with Gorcho's and Matt pairing, for sure.
Yeah, and with this ideology that we see here, or what I can only describe as ideology, seeing that we've only got 1 card from each deck. If you were going to unforsake any of these cards and move them over to the restricted list, this is the one that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, I think so.
We started with Blade Catcher. Does anybody want to run down Delving for Wealth?
Sure. So this is from Pillage and Plunder. This is a surge that just says when you've delved for your 3rd time in a round, you score for 1. It's pretty hard to stop. Oftentimes, a warband that's running Pillage and Plunder would have some fighter that they can park in the back on a token and just have them sit there in every activation delve until they score this. To really no detriment to that fighter. It doesn't put them in any sort of risk. There's no sort of positional requirement other than being on a treasure token. So it's a very strong card. I think where people have potentially pointed out that like this is an interesting one for restriction is that there's so many good end phases in Pillage and Plunder that I think people are often fine with losing 1 surge so that they can just take a different surge from their pairing to sort of fill this gap. So I'd be interested in what you guys think. I can certainly say that I'm using Pillage and Plunder for Hexbanes because they benefit from Pillage and Plunder really heavily with the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not have any problem replacing Delving for Wealth, although I certainly missed it when I didn't have it.
Yeah. For me, there's 5 good surges in Pillage and Plunder. So if what you're pairing with has 2 surges you can take, you're just fine taking Delving for Wealth out and just slotting in those 2 instead.
Yeah.
So I'm interested why they chose a surge here when some of those end phases, especially the 2 glory ones, I think probably could have taken the restricted instead. But
So for me, when I think of Pillage and Plunder, I think of the reliability of that surge package. So I think we've kind of got an interesting little double tap on the surge package in Pillage and Plunder here, because Claim the Prize has also kind of been hit by the underdog change, right? So
Yeah.
when you were underdog, you could delve in your territory and score that card, whereas now you may not be able to rely on that aspect of that card as much as you were able to before. Like that was a super easy thing to rely on before with that card, whereas now you're going to be more focused on the other part of it, which is delving in enemy territory. So I think, like, if I had to guess, what's happening here is they are like trying to target the reliability of the surge package as a whole. Like, if you're willing to swap out Delving for Wealth, it's probably the easiest surge in the game. It's one of the easiest surges in the game at the very least. So it's like, okay, hopefully then whatever you swapped in is a little harder or a little more inconvenient for you, forces a little more interaction. And then Claim the Prize is also kind of forcing you forward. I would say not for Horde Warbands. I think Horde Warbands are like going to take Claim the Prize right away again and be very happy with it. But yeah, I think it's just tweaking the effectiveness of your surge package and saying, if you really want that extra level of reliability, take on the R.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting that most people, I think, are viewing Pillage and Plunder from the lens of Zarbags using it. And I think especially when paired with Zarbags, this restriction really doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like Zarbag is just going to be like, yeah, okay, fine. I can find a different surge. That's not a problem. And I think it's probably worth jumping straight to Spread Havoc from Countdown to Cataclysm then to also talk about the other side of that pairing. So the other restricted card for Countdown to Cataclysm is Spread Havoc, which is their score this in an end phase for a number of glory points equal to your Cataclysm value up to 2. So it's literally free. It's the only end phase card that you will always score no matter what the situation is in the game, which is wild. So having it be restricted makes sense. But if you're pairing with Countdown, are you really ever going to take anything other than Spread Havoc for your restricted card? I guess is the question. My thought would be no, and I think that leaves people with sort of a feeling like the pairing of Pillage and Cataclysm specifically for Zarbag didn't really change. And I think there's other changes that are affecting Zarbags, and I don't want to say that like nothing about this change is hurting them, but I think we're going to have to see how much does it actually affect them, because their win rate was absurd. So hopefully it brings them down like 10% at least in their win rate. And to even be able to say that shows just how out of line their win rate is. So I don't know. You guys have any other thoughts on that?
For me, I would like Brian made a point one time. We were talking about Domatan Storm Coven in version 1, and we were just theorizing like, how would you bring them into line at that time? And every once in a while we would come up with an idea that would hurt others. And Brian, like, forever changed my opinion by responding and saying, no, you shouldn't do that, because you don't want to punish so many others for the abuser.
Right.
And so I guess when with Zarbags, I feel like they are obviously abusers of a lot of different things in the game right now, and I think they should be solely punished for it. And we should see them brought down further than possibly we see them brought down here, because spoilers, I don't think this patch does quite enough to Zarbags. I definitely think it moves the needle, but I don't think it maybe gets them straight into place in one. But so, like, the reason I brought up this interaction with Brian and I, and this idea of like abusers, is I think like Underdog, I think I really like it, but I think we're going to see some abusers crop up from it. And I think Zarbag is amongst those abusers.
Right.
And I don't think that that's indicative of a bad rule. I think it's indicative of an abuser that needs to be brought into line. And I would say the same to be true here with Spread Havoc and Delving for Wealth. Like, I really like that if you're going to take Spread Havoc, then you're forgoing any of the other R's on this list. I like that tax, but there are going to be warbands like Zarbags that can just shake that tax off like nothing, and then it really wasn't a tax. Yeah, I guess that was a bit of a tangent, but brainstorming about this game and like different things that are out of strength, one way or the other, like needs to be brought up, needs to be brought down. It's just something of a pastime, for me. And thinking about the abusers and trying to target them instead of the rule they're benefiting from is something, especially when it's a global rule, is just something that I think about a lot more. So I just wanted to bring that forward.
Any thoughts, Zach, before we move away from the pillage and countdown stuff?
I think we've touched it for the most part here. Spread Havoc is probably just going to be your choice if you're taking Cataclysm, no matter what the other restricted card is, unless you have a real need for extra glory in what I assume we'll go to next here in Supremacy. I could see that one maybe being taken over it, but otherwise I think you're putting in Spread Havoc and saying, I'm scoring 2 and I'm going to be happy.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Do you either of you think that the combination of the plot card change to a must and Spread Havoc being here, do you think that takes the deck out of competitive consideration, or like where do you think that lands the deck?
I don't think it really moves the needle on countdown at all. I think it's still like free glory is always good. 2 free glory is really good. And I don't think, like, if you were on the fence about Wreckers before, you're probably off of it now, but I don't think that's going to like shoo you away from the deck as a whole. I think there's useful tools throughout. Cataclysm has the best ping package in the game, has the only card that lets you make it attack in the power step, which is powerful and from a number of different angles. Has cards that give you extra defense dice, which is always powerful. Like, it does a little bit of everything, which is why I think you see it as like the de facto pairing to fill in all the gaps for whatever your other deck is. So I would guess anybody who was taking Cataclysm before is perfectly happy to keep taking it now.
Yep, I would pretty much fully agree on that. Anybody that wanted Cataclysm still wants it. If you wanted Wreckers before, you still want it now. If somebody was kind of on the fence about taking Cataclysm, you may be scared away from it now, but I think you're still taking it most of the time. We may not see it as reliably at the top tables now. So I think that might be the change. It's just it's not going to have the prevalence maybe that it once did towards the top if it got brought down a little bit. But I think you're still taking it plenty often and still doing plenty well with it.
Yeah, I think the biggest loser, if you will, amongst the Cataclysm changes is collateral damage, because it's kind of now this like reverse strong start, whereas strong start being a card, if I get the first kill, then I get a glory, and we kind of don't like that card today, right? Because like, what if they get the first kill, or what if I draw this after a kill has happened, and collateral damage is now kind of like the inverse of that idea. It's just like, if they hit me and take me down, is it in ideal timings?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so on the restricted list yet, we have Supremacy, Mobbed, and Illusory Fighter to cover. I really want to ask Zach about Illusory Fighter, because I think out of the three of us, you have the most experience with that card. How do you feel seeing that as the Blazing Assault restricted card?
I am tempted to zag here and say you should take it over Spread Havoc, but that is entirely wrong. But man, does it hurt to lose a potentially across the board teleport without a token being handed out. Certain warbands aren't going to care if this is on here, and if you're playing a big boy, headsman, monologue, something like that, you're really going to feel the pain of this, especially now potentially being able to force a lot of the fighting into your territory. The token change, I think, shot the stocks of this up, but it being on here means you aren't taking it probably over most of the other restricted cards, unfortunately.
I think the token change is a really interesting thing to highlight here. It feels like I would have been happy to have seen this on the restricted list with the tokens the way they were before, but I feel like it's probably necessary to see it on the restricted list here with the token change. Like from an aggro standpoint, if I can bring them into my territory and then also teleport to them, an already really strong card with the stocks gone up on it. Yeah, I really like the way you tackled that there. It's I'm gonna be really curious to see any of the cards on this list. I'm gonna be really curious to see when somebody picks it. Except for Spread Havoc. I think that's the only one that I'm gonna be like, yeah, sure, fine.
So I was thinking about like what you usually pair with Blazing Assault, and obviously the Cataclysm pairing makes it a hard choice because you're having to pick between Havoc and Illusory Fighter, and Free Glory is just probably too good to pass up. But with all the other pairings, like, what do you want more, Blade Catcher or Illusory Fighter? I think I'd almost always choose Illusory Fighter in that situation.
I was thinking about Thricefold. Like, you generally see them with Blazing Assault and Countdown.
Yeah, Thricefold got. We'll talk a little bit more about them when we get to their update, but I think they got hit in a number of different ways with this update, which is interesting.
Because I think that's a really hard choice for them. Like, give up the versatility of being able to pump more out of Vexmore with Illusory Fighter, or grab the Spread Havoc Free Glory. Yeah, I think that one's tough.
Like, if you pair Blazing with Pillage, I think you're pretty okay with losing out on Delving for Wealth to take Illusory Fighter. If you're paired with Edge, I don't know. I guess we can probably just talk about Mobbed here quick. I think Edge is kind of catching strays here a little bit. Like, hardly anybody's taking Edge of the Knife, and yes, Mobbed is a really good upgrade. But like, Edge of the Knife is not in any way out of line, and I guess if they wanted to just have one card from every deck, you could say like, well, I guess if you had to pick something, you'd pick Mobbed because it's such a huge accuracy boost. But it's like appropriately costed. I think you're having to pay 2 glory to equip it. You're having to be paired like with another fighter to get the benefit, right? So you don't just like automatically get to be hitting fighters as though they were surrounded all the time. You do have to have another fighter nearby. Like, I don't know what else you would pick from the deck, but like, I think Edge needs mobbed. So then it's like, oh, now you're losing out on the best card in the deck, and it doesn't really have something to replace it from the deck. So now it's just like, well, I don't know. I don't know what else I'm wanting from Edge. Like Edge is, it's a niche deck, and I think it's maybe worth pointing out that Rack and Ruin doesn't have any cards on here. Probably because it doesn't have any that are like strong enough to warrant being on here. So I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. So I really wanted to ask you guys what you thought about the ideology of seeing single cards on here and not seeing one for Rack and not seeing one for Realmstone, but seeing one for Edge of Knife. So it kind of feels like the right time to talk about that. And it's interesting now because it almost feels like they're promoting picking up Rack and Ruin and pairing it with something. Like it's a relief deck. Like, hey, if you want to take on one of these restricted without having to make a choice against another restricted card, like pick up Rack and Ruin, pick up Realmstone. And if that's to encourage like more build diversity, then I would have liked to have seen Edge of the Knife also in that build diversity picture. I think Mobbed is crazy strong, and I could totally see like in a championship format or in a world where Edge of the Knife is picked more. Like, yes, put Mobbed on here. But we just don't see it enough today. Almost like somebody has a grudge against Mobbed.
Is it you, Skyler? Did you do this?
I did not. But what do you guys think about the kind of like the relief aspect of picking Rack or picking Realmstone?
I think Realmstone is new enough that if it needs a restricted card, we don't know what it is yet.
I would agree.
Yep.
So I'm not surprised to not see one from there on here. I'm a little surprised if we're doing one from everything or nearly everything that we didn't get one from Rack just to have it be even for everybody. Because like we touched on, Mobbed is a restricted, like powerful enough to be restricted card, but it's in a deck that doesn't need to have a restriction, especially if we're not restricting a card in every deck. So
yeah, I'd also like, I don't really know the reasoning, because like if we look at Rack and we say, well, we don't think something needs to be restricted, so maybe it can be, like you say, a relief deck. I think you could have done the same thing for Edge to be like, not a lot of what's in here is going to be ideal for everybody. So like if you want to reach for this, there's sort of an extra incentive for doing so. And I mean, maybe people with more experience with playing Edge would agree that Mobbed should have been on here, but I don't know. I struggle with the idea that Edge was like that you would ever take Mobbed over one of these other choices, I guess. Like if I just do the 1-1 and I'm like, well, Blade Catcher, yeah, I'm probably taking Blade Catcher. Delving for Wealth, and I'm probably taking Delving for Wealth. Like there's probably a few warbands where it would make sense, but I don't know. It's an interesting one.
I actually think I would take Mobbed over Blade Catcher.
Oh, snap.
Yeah,
I was thinking I might take it over Delving for Wealth.
And I actually think Mobbed I would take over anything other than Spread Havoc in here, and you can't pair those together.
It's true.
Oh, sure.
I think with Mobbed, I think the warbands that want to play Edge aren't so much cared about getting killed, so Blade Catcher isn't as big of a deal there. You either want damage on you, or you're okay with your little fighters dying anyway because it's just going to happen. So you take it there. Delving for Wealth, I could see that needing to be a surge that you need to take, but Mob just helps so much with the game plan of I need to hit you over and over again to make sure that everybody's tempered here. Because I think you're probably, if you're taking Edge, you're probably trying to get everyone tempered. Because I don't see a ton of other reason to take that deck to not go for that 3 glory.
Well, and I suppose if you're going 3-fighter elite as well, maybe they want a choice to be made here between mobbed over like illusory fighter or blade catcher.
Yeah, could be.
Maybe we've stumbled on
Maybe
on
that's
some
why.
of the reasoning here. Yeah,
I still don't think
it's because it's interesting hearing that exploration by Zach. Sorry, go ahead.
I still don't think mob needs to be on here. I think if you're playing Edge of the Knife, you're already kind of restricting yourself anyway, just because there isn't a lot of other good cards in there. So I think if we maybe want to encourage more Edge instead of saying, well, you can play it, but then you don't get the fun blade catcher if you're going to do that pairing, or you don't get the fun illusory fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's round this out because we have warbands to talk about yet, and I think there's a lot of exciting stuff to talk about in there, and we don't want to drag the episode on too long for folks, including ourselves. So, Supremacy is the last hit on the list here, and Phil, as the hold aficionado amongst the three of us, how do you feel about this here? What do you think?
Oh boy. It's an appropriately powerful card to probably restrict. The problem is what else are you doing? Like when you're playing Emberstone, like this is one of the cards that's really drawing you into that deck. And if you feel like you can't take it now, it's pretty tough because like most of the other decks that you pair with aren't focused on holding. Like pretty much we've only seen Emberstone paired with Countdown or Pillage. If you're pairing with Countdown, you're probably not taking Supremacy over Spread Havoc, although maybe because it's for 3 you would, but then you're sacrificing free glory for a potential 3. And like Supremacy was only good for elites for the most part. It's harder to play when you don't have the bigger 2 glory fighters. So, if you were playing Supremacy with a Horde, or if you were playing Emberstone with a Horde, you probably weren't taking Supremacy anyway. So like this really only hits elite hold. It's an interesting one. I think if we had like another hold deck that gave us equivalent options to choose between, it would be an interesting choice, but now it's sort of like a frustrating choice because the pairings that are viable for hold, you're like losing out on a good surge or a good end phase, or you're having to choose between 2 really good end phases, and then like you're diluting all your other hold options. So like I said, I think it as a standalone thing probably makes the most sense as the card to pick out of here. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe it could have been Iron Grasp given the change, but even then, like with the token placement changes, if you restrict Iron Grasp, that becomes hard because like if your opponent gets the choice of the 3 and then kind of knows that you probably weren't taking Iron Grasp because it was restricted, it then makes it even an easier choice for them to just plop 3 in their own territory. So like,
yeah,
I don't know. I should probably reserve some more judgment. I haven't played Emberstone since the change, but like hold, I was feeling like had a hard time right now anyway, and this is going to make some of those choices harder.
Yeah, I tend to agree with with your takes there. I think the one thing I want to jump on is I find Iron Grasp interesting not being seen here in a good way, because like if we continue to puzzle all of these changes together, I like seeing some pressure on your opponent when they are going to try to leave 1 token in your territory. They might think twice. If you're, say, Emberstone Sentinels. And I think that it could have easily gone the other way, right? If they hear Emberstone Sentinels, they're like, oh, I'm just going to plant them all over here. But because that's like almost handing you a free 2 points, it's handing you a much easier, 2 points. That puts pressure on that decision. So I'm happy to not see Iron Grasp here. it seems, like as far as like the R's we're seeing in each deck, they're picking out like something fundamental to the identity of the deck, and challenging it. And so I think that I like seeing supremacy here, except when the choice you have to make that choice against Countdown to Cataclysm, because that was one of the better pairings available for hold players. And I think, Zach, you mentioned this when I saw you in person. It was like the first thing you said was Emberstone and Countdown is straight out as a pairing now. And I'd be interested to explore that. But for the most part, I feel the same. And I'm hoping that this is indicative of hold decks on the rise, or, like on the horizon. Yeah, because I think we need more like with the hit to Emberstone and Countdown, a true hold deck in Identity is out. Like you still have Emberstone and Pillage, sure, but they're that's not quite that true hold picture. That's what Pillage is, and being half of the picture and hold being the other half. Yes, you're on tokens, but it would be nice to see another option enter the arena for hold players. So talking in circles a bit there, but yeah, I think like when you look at Supremacy, it's the strongest objective in that deck, and like Spread Havoc is the easiest 2 points in the game in Countdown, and that deck's become unanimous with that card, or ubiquitous with that card. Mobbed, you have I think Mob slots a lot into the other changes here, if I had to guess, but it's definitely like the strongest card in that deck. Illusory Fighter can be absolutely game changing. Delving for Wealth, like you look at Pillage, and I would say the its identity is like first and foremost. Like when people think about Pillage, I think they're thinking about how easy and smooth that Surge package is. Like a lot of the times you can be like, oh, I'll slot Pillage in as my Surge package, and maybe this challenges that a bit. And then Blade Catcher was so good before in this aggro deck that it was Forsaken. So yeah, it's interesting across the board, but I think these are meant to challenge like the best ideas or the concepts we've attached with these decks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it will be interesting to see where the meta shakes out with all these changes, especially with the updates to the restricted list. I think I guess actually we haven't had a restricted list before, so it'll be interesting to just have one and see how that changes deck building, and like what warbands in decks maintain dominance and maybe what is brought up. But in that vein, we have a lot of warband updates.
Yeah, let's do it.
We should probably keep it moving here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to jump in here with the Brethren. They didn't receive an errata. Everyone else is going to be subject to a nerf or buff errata as we run down this. But I wanted to kick them off at the top because of the hymn change we talked about, being a buff for them. The hymn change being a result of abilities persisting that are on War Scrolls. But we also got some FAQ items here that really change Brethren for the better. I don't think that Brethren net out as top dogs here, but I think they're going to be a little more fun to play, and I'm looking forward to giving that a spin. So this is a question and answer. Can I use Heaven's Charge and pick a friendly fighter who is uninspired? Yes. This makes sense when you look at the War Scroll and you read, I'm just pulling up the Brethren real quick. So the way this is worded, use this immediately after your action step, pick a friendly fighter, uninspire that fighter. then inflict 1 damage on an adjacent enemy fighter. You can only use this ability once per game. I think this may have been as they intended all along, and we just didn't realize it, because they could have worded it pick an inspired friendly fighter and then uninspire that fighter. So maybe the goal along was, if you're using Heaven's Charge, we want to make sure that you're uninspired after the fact, but you can start there. And that's fine, because uninspiring an uninspired fighter just doesn't do anything. So yes, that's allowed. That's legal, and they put that in here so that that's clear for us that we can use that way. So that's cool. And then they deleted something that I thought was kind of working against the other rulings on sequencing. So I think this goes hand in hand with the first change we talked about at the top of the episode. The first question and answer we talked about, can I inspire a friendly fighter that was a conducting fighter immediately after my action step, and then use Heaven's Charge immediately after the same action step? That was previously a no, just been deleted out, which implies yes. So they could have just flipped that over to a yes, but deleting it out, like getting rid of it altogether. It was confusing that it was in here, because the way that we've been taught to sequence would say that you could sequence these abilities that way for yourself. So it makes a lot of sense to see this deleted here. And give Brethren a try. They look fun. Anything more you guys want to say on it? I think the bulk of Brethren talk was before in the hymns.
I'm curious with this change now, if we have a thought on this one here. Since you can sequence when things happen, can you use Heaven's Charge and then inspire that same fighter? Can you sequence it that way, or do you have to inspire, uninspire to use Heaven's Charge? Because they're both at the same time.
I think that you could absolutely use Heaven's Charge and then inspire.
That would be how I would read it as well. Just curious if we had any thoughts there.
I think it seems they're getting just like the lightest bit of buffs here through Fulminating Hymn, through this sequencing clarification. And yes, you can use this on an uninspired fighter. So I'm happy to see it all. I think, like, if it was any other warband, or like, they were doing much better, I don't think we would have seen this. I think we would have seen like an errata to Heaven's Charge that was like, absolutely not. Pick an inspired friendly fighter. Stop it. But yeah. Maybe whoever went in there to touch this was like, I could correct it to pick an inspired friendly fighter, but they can use a little help. Why not? And just instead of making an errata, they were like, let's just clarify the rules as they exist today, and let people play with the rules as written, versus like throwing a wrench in it. That's what I think.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I haven't actually played against Brethren at all yet.
Oh, no?
No.
Yeah, I played them early on a little bit, mainly against Brian. But I'll bring them back out. I'll give them a shot. I don't think they are going to handle tremendously. I've mentioned before on the podcast that I think their defense profiles are abysmal, and I think that their inspired profiles are what we're used to seeing on uninspired friendly fighters. And so I think it's atrocious that they uninspired to like 2 swords, 1 damage, or like they have just the worst uninspired stats in the game. And so it begs you to get them up to where a lot of other warbands start, by like puzzling out their chains and making sure you're re-inspiring them. So I think they're going to be tough to play, but I remember also just having a lot of fun playing in when I was trying them out, because I think they're just an interesting puzzle to be able to play with. So speaking of interesting puzzles, we're not going to touch on this long. We're going to shout out Wellner here. The Loon Corps have seen a small update to their quests. So in short, instead of reading this in full, what I will say is it used to say you can abandon a quest at any time. And that is not conducive to any windows that we have in the game. When is any time? Can you like start a quest, abandon, start another quest all at once at like instant speed? And those answers didn't exist. Wellner brought this to a Grand Clash and asked this question. So I wonder if this ended up making its way back to GW. I'm not saying he's the only Loon Court player out there, but I know he's brought him to tournaments and asked this exact question. So it now says you can abandon a quest in a power step instead of playing a power card. So that's clarifying when you can abandon instead of just leaving it vaguely open at any time, which I think was really funny, but also, frustrating because there wasn't an answer. And now we have a proper window that it lives in.
Yeah. No notes, just, give things proper windows, write rules in a way that makes sense.
Speaking of writing rules in a way that makes sense, Phil, why don't you take us down the Mollog alleyway?
Another really small one. It's just making sure that you could actually read this rule because literally there was no way to read it before. So for the Stalagswig, his always lurking at the end, it I'm not even going to bother saying what it used to say because it was nonsensical. But they've now clarified that he can't be pushed or moved, which I think was always intended, but you really couldn't tell from the previous wording. So just know, once you've placed Stalagswig, that's where he's going to be forever. That's how he worked in first edition. I don't know why they couldn't have written this in a logical way originally. Like, it just did not make any sense the way it was written. So, small change. I don't think there's really much to talk about because, like, to call this a nerf would be to suggest that it was supposed to work otherwise. And I really don't think there was ground to stand on to actually support that it should have worked in any other way. Yeah. So we'll just leave it as that is how it is.
But for all of you out there that was giving him legs and making him run with Wings of War, pop on the nose.
No more of that. It doesn't get to move or push. All right. So we can, I guess, let's jump right into Thricefold.
Go for it.
So they now have their evasive ability changed to say that the fighter that can use this ability has to have no move or charge tokens. I haven't really played them previously. I've played into them. I don't really remember evasive ever coming up in the games that I played against them. I don't know, how much of a big deal is this? People online are acting like the warband is worthless now, but I think that's maybe more collateral damage from the restricted list than this change. But combine this change with the restricted list, maybe Thricefold is hurting. I'm not really sure.
I personally think this is the absolute lightest touch that could have landed on this warband. I have seen the outrage for how badly nerfed Thricefold has been and how dead in the water they are now. And people have to be speaking to some overall picture here, because if they're just talking about evasive, I don't see it.
I think
I like this change.
Zach, you had mentioned earlier that like Blazing Assault Countdown was probably their best pairing, and that pairing certainly took a hit. So
that would be up there for them for sure. I think this is totally fine because it's still going to help you from getting Alpha Strike, which is when you want the damage reduction anyway, before you can do something about it. And then after that, it's a choice you make whether or not you move or charge with them, or you try and do some other things anyway. So I think this is totally fine. And obviously, we'll see if they just completely disappear now, but I think they're still probably pretty good.
I like that the change here matches Vexmore as well, and his Indolence, where Indolence is giving you, Grievous and an extra dice if that fighter does not have a move or a charge token. So I really like that it mirrors that. So it's something that you think about on all three of the fighters. They have something when they don't have a move or a charge token. And I think that Evasive had the strongest negative player experience potential here, because you'd have to get through 2 defense dice a lot of the time, because one of them starts on 2 and the other one goes to 2, I think. But you're trying to get through 2 defense dice, so you're trying to get your attack to hit first and foremost, and that might already be difficult, especially if they have access to guard or spent a turn putting guard on their fighter, or just the fact that sometimes 2 dodge is hard to chew through, so you're already trying to push that attack through. And then if they actually rolled this 33% chance, then that might leave your attack amounting to very little, and all of a sudden they could superficially have an extra 2 health by the time you're finally able to land enough attacks to chew through them. So I think overall I just really like that they didn't remove this ability. They just made you think about it a little bit more, and I really like that you can't be alpha striked with it. Overall I'm positive on this. I don't think this hurts them. I think it would be the FAR that we talked about already, that maybe they're suffering a little bit from.
Yep.
So I mean, obviously it hurts them a little, but I'm positive with it. So all right. Well, next up is Sepulchral Guard for us. Zach, do you want to cover Sepulchral Guard?
Yeah, we can go through the changes here. I actually don't remember what their card said before, so we'll go through it here. So I see you've highlighted a couple spots here. So Bone Shrapnel we'll start with, since that's mostly the same here. It now has been changed to inflict 1 damage on that enemy fighter when you use it. I believe before they had to be not vulnerable.
Correct.
Okay, so now you can kill an enemy with it, so be careful attacking them. What else do we have? Arise is that used to... Oh boy! Oh, the damage. That's what it is. So now,
exactly.
Used to, when you raise 2 fighters, put damage on them until they were vulnerable, and now you don't do that, so they come back full health. Kind of interesting for me. We'll talk about it in a second, obviously, but what difference between 1 damage and 2 isn't all that great. So I'm curious if this will actually have an effect. And then Startling Reformation, which replaces the Relentless Blows ability. This now says use this in a power step, remove your leader from the battlefield, and place them in an empty hex adjacent to 2 friendly fighters. Then give your leader a charge token. You can only use this ability once per game. So instead of getting an extra attack, which they didn't love necessarily, now they can just get the Warden Out danger at the cost of a charge token.
Yeah. I'd like to run this one down ability by ability. At least briefly. So Bone Shrapnel, we'll start there. Easiest one to talk about. I think this is a great change because you're opting in to killing a friendly fighter, or you're opting into killing a skeleton, right? Already. And so don't go kill a skeleton with somebody that you have vulnerable. I think that's totally a fair ask. Is it puts you in the driver's seat. Yeah, you have the decision. If I attack that fighter, I have the chance to take a damage, and if I'm vulnerable, that's ugly. But it doesn't lock them out of their ability in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a restriction I never felt belonged in this interaction personally.
Yeah, I kind of get where they were a lot of the ping in this edition is hey, you can't kill people with pings, just flat, except in Cataclysm where none of them have that restriction. But
or if you're the Ember Watch, they're the first warband in the edition.
Yeah, but that's you had to have made a successful attack before you could do it. So it was
sure.
It was basically Grievous without calling it Grievous for them. So
yeah,
a little different. So yeah, I think this is perfectly reasonable for them. As a warband, they have not performed particularly well, so anything that can help them, I think, will be good.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go next?
Let's jump to Arise. Since it's not a completely new ability, Arise now bringing your fighters back to their full 2 health instead of coming in and taking on a damage is rather interesting to me. I think it has give and take. So like the take would be that it actually reduces they used to be paired with Rack and Ruin quite a bit. Like if you did see them, they were paired with Rack and Ruin because they were taking on that damage when they were resurrecting. So it was actually something that people were utilizing as a warband's strength to like help them score in unique ways. And so, we don't see that here anymore, which I think I would have preferred to continue to have the single damage on them. And like really keep that open. But at the same time, like the give here is because you have 2 health, you can actually benefit from stand fast. Whereas before, if an incoming attack was hitting you, you were gone, right?
True.
So I don't know. It's like it theoretically that gives them more staying power for their hold game plan. But we haven't seen them utilized so much so towards that hold game plan. We've seen them with that Rack and Ruin pairing. So like changing the dial a little bit and trying to spin them away from that and spin them closer to hold. What do you guys think?
Zach, you seem to have some thoughts.
Yeah, the other thing this does is it doesn't hand blood tithe over to Gore Chosen every time you resurrect fighters.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't even think about that.
I mean, if that was the sole concern, and not that it had to be the sole concern, but like they could just rewrote it with like like set your I don't know, like they could have worded it any way, shape, or form that wasn't like this is inflicting.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting. Curious to see what Sepulchre Guard players do with the extra health there. Best I can imagine is again that stand fast potential. But I think the most exciting change is a startling reformation. So you have to use it in the power step, and you're removing your leader and placing them adjacent to 2 friendly fighters, and then you're giving your leader a charge token. So your forward ability and your Arise ability don't work when you have a charge token. You can't use them. So this is, if you're going to use it as an escape hatch, then you're foregoing forward and Arise for the rest of that round, which I find really interesting. But I also like the idea that like you could have 2 fighters positioned next to like a feature token and jump your warden to be holding. Like, I'm curious to see. I think it'll be really interesting to see people utilize this ability. And I like that you kind of have to set it up if you want to get your leader out of dodge, since he's so fundamental.
It's certainly interesting. I wonder if it's so restrictive that like it won't even be all that useful as a escape hatch. Because like if you don't have 2 fighters with a spot that lands you somewhere safe, then like what's even the point of using this? Because like you said, you're turning off your other super critical abilities to use it. And like you could have 1 fighter who's managed to like sneak their way away from the fighting probably, but you can't teleport to just 1 friendly fighter. So it's a huge change. In some ways, like they're losing some of their consistency with attacks, because being able to make that extra attack when they missed could have helped with like driving people off of tokens or just killing people, I guess. I almost wonder if this is like a side grade that like maybe helps with survivability of the warden, but maybe doesn't actually change the warband a lot. I don't know. I'm unsure. Overall, on all of these changes, like I'm not really sure if it puts them in a better spot, if it's just like a different spot.
I guess another thing I like about this one is that it doesn't care what token state the warden is in already.
True.
So you could also use it to like charge in, especially once he's inspired and punching for 3, which is crazy. You could actually run him in, hit somebody, and then essentially almost like a illusory fighter away, but obviously much more conditional. So
yeah, could be.
I know. Looking at Relentless Blows before, I always thought that one was weird, like what it's replacing, because you use it after a friendly fighter's failed attack, but you have to pick another friendly fighter, and then that fighter attacks.
It's kind of weird, but like,
so it's kind of kept a setup theme as well.
That's probably true. Probably part of the reason that the warband's just not that good, because they've got so many little hoops to jump through with not amazing stats.
Well,
like move 2 is bad. Like just flat out, every warband with move 2 has a handicap, and they need to have some like good reason for having it, and I don't think that they do. So I think that's why we don't see them very much this edition.
And I think again, puzzling all the pieces or changes together, I think the change to token placement is going to really hurt this warband.
Probably. It almost has to with speed 2, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Same with Thundrix. Like I think Thundrix like your speed 2 candidates are just reeling as a result of the new token placement rules. But any other thoughts? Otherwise, we'll jump on to the Zarbag.
I think we should just move on. We've still got a lot to cover and like more impactful ones probably than what happened with Sepulchral Guard.
All right.
So Zarbag getting a couple changes here, which by themselves is probably not all that impactful, but when you combine it with everything else we've already talked about earlier in the episode, I think starts to move the needle. The question will just be how much. So first, Zarbags have their Inspire changing. It used to be that they needed to have total glory equal to or greater than the number of friendly fighters alive. It is now that it must be greater. So if they don't lose any fighters, they need at least 10 glory before they'll inspire. Obviously, that's not likely to be the case, but it like shifting that number up even just by 1, I think, slows them down slightly. And then the other change is called Too Bouncy. It just says friendly fighters with the flying rune mark cannot delve or hold treasure tokens. This is a direct attack on the squigs being used as extra delvers and holders because they both have the flying rune mark. Interestingly, this doesn't specifically call out the squigs. It just says friendly fighters with the flying rune mark. So if we ever get an upgrade that says this fighter has the flying rune mark, they would then also fall under this rule. So I guess they would never take an upgrade if it were to come out and work that way.
Yeah, and the other change is that Too Bouncy is slotted into where their glory cap used to be.
Oh, yeah. They used to have some ability that was like not even worth it, which I guess is what the Too Bouncy is replacing, right? Because that's what that used to be.
Yep, exactly. So it's like removing the after you've gained 7 glory from these fighters, you no longer gain glory from killing them. So that's almost like a change in and of itself. And then putting Too Bouncy here on the War Scroll is interesting as well. So they kind of got 3 light hits here. Too Bouncy being the most interesting to me. Like I think I'm really happy to see that, they need 1 more glory to get to that Inspire, because their Inspire is so strong. However, the fact that as you kill them, you're also moving them closer to this picture. Like it there's always a push or pull on it, and I wonder if like this will do enough to push them later and later into the game before they inspire, give you more opportunity before their stats are two dodge and heavy hitters for their size. But yeah, too bouncy. I think like I immediately got curious about this and started looking at the ability to scurry with this warband. And because my understanding is that the squigs are what puts the scurry glue together. And looking at boards, without squigs being able to be placed down, you'd only really ever have one or two paired up positions at the beginning of the match. And so you'd really only be able to scurry one or two times off of like your natural positions at the start. But it is the squigs that make that picture so like prominent and give them such power with scurry. So this feels like an attack on scurry in some ways, in the sense that it's like, hey, instead of sending squigs away as part of the scurry to tokens, you often won't be doing that. You're instead going to be charging forward with them and kicking somebody else out. Almost like you're, trying to say, if you had two fighters that were about to scurry, and they both can't go on objectives, old habits, treasure, one of them has to go charge. Otherwise they're not doing enough. It's interesting.
I don't know. I mean, like, you can still end up chaining scurries if you wanted to, if you can place your squigs properly and like move a squig to then move a goblin, which moves another goblin, and then have two goblins land on treasures. Like, I don't know that it does anything to scurry, really. I'll be interested to see if maybe it changes some of the decision making for folks, but I get the feeling that like getting to where they want to go isn't going to be a problem with this change. The only thing will be they have two fewer fighters to do holding, and what does that end up meaning for the warband? And I don't really know. The sentiment from most people who play with and against Zarbags seem to think that like this probably won't change a lot. So I'm going to trust that people online know what they're talking about, but it'll be interesting.
I do really like that if they're not going to be holding treasure, that they're not able to delve treasure as well.
Yep.
I just feel like delve in this edition is so much more prominent as a scoring vehicle than what holding used to be for us long-term players. So it makes a lot of sense to see delve being particularly hit here. I'm really surprised with the order of the words here. Cannot delve or hold treasure tokens. If they had flipped that to say cannot hold treasure tokens or delve, it's a different sentence. Like, you can actually still get a squig on a cover token and delve it.
Okay.
Because it says cannot delve or hold treasure tokens, right? Like, I'm reading that correctly, right?
I mean, delve is just inherent to flipping a feature token, right? It doesn't have anything to do with a treasure token, so I don't think it matters.
Yeah,
so your read is that it's cannot delve, full stop, or hold treasure tokens.
Correct, because delving in the game is just you flip a treasure, like you flip a token. Mm-hmm. That's what the delve is.
Okay. I thought maybe it was targeting cannot delve treasure tokens.
If delve was lowercase somehow and like didn't have an inherent meaning as to what delve was, I think that might be true. But like,
okay, I like it better that it would hit delve entirely.
I just think it says they can't delve.
Can't delve.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I read it as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, two less pieces of of the warband that are able to handle that. Theoretically brings it down to 7 fighters that can, and that's the most of warband can. So it's just a question of, is it enough? I think what it really boils down to. Like I'm happy to see some of their prowess hit. I just don't know if it's enough.
Yeah, and I mean, we won't really have a way of knowing that until we see a tournament. I think our Q2 tournament might be the first one that's going to have this in effect. That's like large enough to say that it can be used as a reliable data source. So don't know if anyone's going to be playing Gits at our tournament. I guess I could just for the sake of seeing what happens. But
I will be shocked if Wellner doesn't. Personally,
really?
Okay.
Yeah. Fair. But anything more that we want to highlight regarding Zarbag? We've kind of had them as a focal point throughout the.
We've talked about them a lot. I think we can keep it rolling.
All right. On to Black Powder. I'll read this one. So we have Swag Blast and Swag Mortar scene changes here. They both receive +1 damage to everything else that they were doing already. So Swag Blast is that weapon gets +1 damage and cleave for the attack instead of just cleave. And then if the target is driven back, give the target a stagger token, same as before. And Swag Mortar, that weapon has +1 damage and +X range for an attack, where X is the number of swag tokens you removed. So you can bump this range for Swag Mortar up to, it's naturally a 3, so you can bump it up to a 5 and potentially deal 2 damage with it. That's pretty intense. I think Black Powder players out there are reveling over this change. It seems good, and without fundamentally reworking the War Scroll, it's probably like it probably makes the most sense with how this current edition of Black Powder is, right? Like that War Scroll just reads gun. So how do we buff the gun? So +1 damage.
You save a lot of words. You just write gun on there.
Yeah. I still miss a little bit of like the minion tricks, from the first edition Black Powder. Maybe it could have been cool to have seen something like, after one of these, you're able to push the parrot along or something like that. Like I miss the little guys mattering a little more, but in a version, like I said, that just says gun, what else can you ask for?
Bigger gun. Yeah.
I think we'll see Black Powder more. I mean, an 8 healther that can deal out this extra little bit of damage at range. I think that'll matter.
You gotta hope. I don't know what else you do, to your point. Like you can't well, I mean, we could ask them to rewrite the whole War Scroll, but it seems unlikely that they would do it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's a warband that can pretty reliably leverage Underdog as well.
Yeah. I think that's probably going to be true for all the really big fighter warbands.
Yeah.
Because like so much of their total bounty is tied up in that one big fighter.
All right. Well, any other swaggy things to say? Otherwise, we'll give Zach what he's been wanting.
Oh, we got one more before then.
Well, we did actually. We covered this one technically.
All right.
This board gets they fixed the weapon tags. It's ranged.
Yeah. No, their bigger upgrade was the persisting abilities. But anyway, nothing else on Black Powder. Exactly what they needed. More damage on the gun.
Perfect. So, Zach, what are you excited about?
Oh, I'm excited about this brand new warband. We thought we were getting a death warband with the last release just because that would have made sense. It turns out no, we just needed to wait a week. Now we've got a brand new one, and it's vampires.
Woo-woo!
I'm so excited. I mentioned on a different episode that I had tried Crimson Court out and was very sad and did not have a lot of fun. They are now completely different. They went from something you wanted to hold with, and now I think you're going to want to attack as we go through the abilities here.
Yeah, it's funny too. Just seeing this overhauled in the way it is, I was highlighting the changes for the episode and seeing that the changes are only the left side boxes. Is, I don't know, just neat. So like the right side of the War Scroll, if you're looking at your copy of Crimson Court, completely unchanged. Your once per game abilities, but everything that fundamentally drives those abilities and the warband has changed. So go ahead and run it down.
I think we'll just run top to bottom because I think it flows pretty well here. So their Inspire now is at the end of each battle round. Inspire each friendly fighter that has no hunger tokens. What are hunger tokens, you ask? Well, at the start of the game, each friendly fighter starts with 2 of them. And then at the start of each round after that, you gain 1. So how do we get rid of them? The hunger. Immediately after a friendly fighter's successful attack, you remove one of that fighter's hunger tokens. If the target of that attack was slain, you can remove all of the hunger tokens. So it doesn't matter if you had 3 or even 4 in round 3, you can just remove all of them. And then Bloodthirst, as well. A friendly fighter has 3 or more hunger tokens. They are bloodthirsty. Bloodthirsty fighters have +1 move, and any guard tokens they have no effect.
Nice.
So this is just going back to first edition, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. So we have 2 hunger tokens on each fighter at the beginning of the game, right? To inspire them, we need them to have none. So when you're removing them, 1 at a time for successful attacks or in full on kills, that means, in that starting round, if you're wanting to get somebody inspired without getting a kill down, you're going to have to find a way to put 1 attack out without charging, probably, and then so be able to reposition the fighter or take advantage of a mistake, of somebody's running in and landing next to one of your fighters, getting that single attack out, and then finding another opportunity for a second successful attack. You can get somebody inspired right out of the gate with that. I like it. I like that they started with 2 instead of 1. It's just, I don't know. Like this just feels good. Like this feels like everything that first edition players wanted to see come over, and like we all wanted to see that identity of, the bloodthirsty hunger being satisfied, and not like the treasure mongers that they became.
It's weird. Just felt weird.
I mean, you say treasure mongers, but really that was like just a tax to be able to trigger their unbelievable have to discard power cards to inspire thing, which like, ugh.
Yeah. It blows my mind that you had to discard without draw up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're just stripping your hand while you had to be holding, and then eventually you'd inspire a fighter. Like, it was just like, this is the most ridiculous inspire condition ever. It didn't synergize with anything else on the War Scroll, so like there was hardly a reason to hold other than the inspire. Because Bestial Transformation is about attacking people. Vampiric Might is just to make you harder to hurt, because they can't cleave or ensnare you. That's kind of beneficial to holding, but not hugely. Tenebrous Forum, you already had to be inspired to use it, so like it doesn't help you towards inspiring in any way. And then Dark Transfusion, which is sort of agnostic to holding. The War Scroll never made any sense to me. So
it was logical. It was like forcing them in like a hamstrung way to be a flex warband because they had, like, if they wanted to see their inspired stats. And I remember seeing some players talk about how their experiment with Crimson Court was forgoing their inspire mechanic and not treating them.
I mean, you just ignore it.
Yeah, but like then that stinks,
of course
have an inspire you're just ignoring.
Gorath. 3 damage Gorath, you need that.
I do wonder where they'll fall now, because their stats are pretty good. It's just before it was basically impossible to get there. So
Yeah, I think they look really promising. I think we're definitely going to see them. It's just to what degree? Like, are they the new kings of aggro? I don't quite think so, but I think they can hang in that arena for sure. Yeah,
they should have good stats. They've got good like 4 bodies instead of 3 for elites is meaningful. Overall, I like it. I think it's a good change to see another Death Warband actually get played. Very cool.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we're all just hot on this and excited to see it. So, speaking of being excited and hot things, Phil, you're up.
Well, I don't know how hot it is, but so Hexbane Hunters, who are not great this edition, I've been all over them just because I really love the like mental gymnastics of like figuring out what you can do when you get to do 2 moves every action instead of 1. And now you actually get 2 moves with every action, because when you move with a friendly Azerite agent Azerite, you can pick a friendly minion with no charge tokens, and then that fighter can move. So the minions are your dogs. You can move a dog then after every single agent Azerite move, which is pretty great. Regardless of if they already have move tokens, they just can't have charged. And like, you're basically never charging with the dogs anyway. So for me, I've been playing Hexbanes with Pillage a lot, because like throwing a 0 bounty dog onto a forward treasure and delving it doesn't really hurt you in any way. If your opponent decides to spend time attacking your dogs, then they're not attacking your actually useful fighters. Not to say the dogs don't have use, but like they can't fight really. So I think this helps. I've gotten to play with it once so far. You just kind of cover the whole board really quickly. You're almost always getting supports for your attacks. Like, it's useful. Your stats are just still pretty abysmal. Across the whole warband, you have, I think it's, 14 health, because you have 4 fighters on 2 health and 2 fighters on 3. So yeah, you have 14 total health. Nobody innately can get up to 3 damage. So like you're low on damage. A lot of those fighters are like 1 damage with crit Grievous, not even real like Grievous to go to 2. So you're having to manufacture a lot of stats, but you have the benefit of a lot of movement. So for anybody who's wanting to just play a weird puzzle of a warband, this change should make it a lot less painful. But I think I would still say Hexbanes are C tier.
Dang, how far they've fallen.
So well, I mean,
in the previous edition. Yeah.
You have to imagine they got that bonk for a reason, because they used to be like S tier forever, and now they're like, okay, you guys had your moment.
Yeah, I'm happy to see this come back. I imagine it was not here originally due to just due to their prominence in the previous edition. They kind of started cautiously with this warband, probably quite overcautiously, when you look at them as a whole, and you remove their 12 objective cards and 20 power cards that they had as their complete package before, and just leave them hanging out at their stats. This is hopefully going to help in my head pull some pressure off of the fighters as well, because it's going to be worthwhile to take down dogs, since they're going to be so key to giving your accuracy boosts, with supports, and so key to scoring things nowadays, that I think it'll be worth your opponent's time to not ignore them, to work on taking them down, which gives you some more life with your Agent Azerites as well. It looks like a lot of fun.
It does have the slight downside of that their Inspire condition requires that you have an Agent Azerite die. So like if people don't attack your agent Azerites, none of them will ever inspire. So little push and pull there.
Yeah. Huh.
Their ability for marked for vengeance also triggers off of an agent Azerite dying. So if they don't attack the agents, you don't get to use the marked for vengeance. So like it's a weird push pull where if like your opponent just leaves your agents alone, their stats kind of suck anyway. So it's like, oh no, now I'm not getting inspired and I don't get rerolls against you, and you're killing my dogs. So I almost wonder if people will realize that if you just kill both of the dogs, the warband actually loses quite a bit. But we'll see. It's still 0 bounty for the first dog that gets killed, and it's not free to kill the dogs. They're 2 health, so you do have to hit them with a real attack. So
yeah. Well, I'm excited to see you field them some more. I've been really enjoying you on them, and so when I read this, I got super excited for you.
Yeah.
So, the last warband to discuss, and then we'll work on closing out today, is the Cunning Crew. I'll read this down. So the Inspire has seen a change that is a real head scratcher. After a friendly fighter's successful attack, if the target was slain, flanked, or surrounded, inspire the attacker and each friendly fighter adjacent to the attacker, adjacent to the target. Whereas before, I pulled this up, it was after a friendly fighter's successful attack, if the target was flanked or surrounded, inspire the attacker and each friendly fighter adjacent to the target. Yep. So the only thing that's changed here is they've added if the slaying the fighter as a condition, but like you're already landing a successful attack, then you're already inspiring the attacker and or anybody adjacent to who you're attacking. So
now you can do it without flanking or surrounding the target.
You just go in and get a kill, you can get inspired.
If after a friendly fighter's successful attack, if the target was
I
understand.
Important distinction.
I understand. There. Okay. So, perfect. So there isn't nothing to this. This does matter.
No,
perfect.
It's a nice little bump.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if they're flanked or surrounded, you're still getting the inspire that you did before. But if you're on your own, taking somebody out and you actually kill them, that's getting you the inspire, at least on that attacker. I see. So just giving you a little more boost to how you can get those inspires going. Okay. And then a cunning plan has seen a change here. And this is just the first line that's seen a change. So use this immediately after an action step if your leader is on the battlefield. That used to read if your leader has any move tokens. So now you don't need any token requirements. Just as long as your leader's alive, you can do the rest of the ability, which is push each friendly minion up to a number of hexes equal to the battle round number. You can only use this ability once per game. So super like seeing this. I think this does more to help them out than the Inspire. Inspire is a nice little benefit though, just to make sure that you have more avenues to getting your fighters inspired. But overall, I haven't seen enough the Cunning Crew to really like add good commentary here. Like even to the point where I couldn't spot the difference in the Inspire at the beginning.
Yeah. Same. I saw that on our league night on Thursday, Bobby was playing them. Yep. My understanding is he had atrocious dice and basically did nothing against gardeners with them. But that is not really indicative of the warband, more just that his dice sucked. So hard to draw some conclusions. It'll be interesting to see if any like big fans of the warband decide to pick them back up and do something with them.
Yeah, I think they've got some pretty decent stats built into the warband.
Torqua's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't look at their stats and go, "Oh my gosh, why are these not being played?" But if they saw a little bit more play as a result of this, yeah, I could see it. They still have to overcome at the start of the game. Crookrane is on 1 dodge, which is hard. At least he's the fighter with 3 health. Manok having 5 health goes up to 3 hammers on both parts of his attack, whether that's range 1 or range 2. Yeah. Torka going up to 2 shields with 3 damage on his attack.
That's good.
That's pretty good.
Torka's good. Can't say Torka's not good, but of the rest, it's like, does it make up for the minions being pretty terrible? Like, I don't know.
It's a different take on the black powder puzzle.
Sure.
You've got some minions you got to figure out what to do with.
Yeah.
But yeah. So overall, a buff for them, and a lot of buffs handed out this patch. So I think that's the thing I'm the most excited about, is seeing. So like, I guess what is that? That's Crimson Court, Hexbane, Cunning Crew, Black Powder, arguably Sepulchral Guard, and then like Borgitz is winning from is winning from the core rule clarification, so that could easily be seen as a buff. Because I know rules is written, they were only getting that trophy hunters at the top of the round. So I'm excited to see how much the warband landscape changes here. I don't think it changes all too much. We all have our fingers crossed, hoping that Zarbags falls down a little harder than we think they are going to, but they're probably still pretty darn good.
Yep.
Cool. Well, before we jump into final thoughts about this, I just want to mention that there's been a couple items formalized in the tournament companion. Just cool to see. Most of us are tracking who took the first turn at the start of the round. They just talk about that. They say that it's good practice. They recommend it. So have some way to know who was the first player. That way, you have easy confidence in who's still got remaining activations. If you're not being perfect on those activations, it can help re-situate yourselves. Like it's happened to me before where like somebody hasn't quite marked their activation token yet and kind of look at each other and you got to puzzle out, wait, where are we in the round? And if you know who started the round, it's really easy to puzzle that out and make sure that that's accurate. So they've added that as a good idea. We would agree, definitely a good idea. And the cool thing is in the tournament companion, they've said best of 3 matches and determining territories is now formalized as well. So game 1 goes to the player that wins the roll-off. They're the one that are going to make the board decision. And then game 2, it's going to be the other player. And that's really cool to see. That's how a lot of tournament organizers are doing it already. But seeing that formalized in their tournament companion is great. It means you're always getting the benefit either in the first game or the second. And then the third game is once again determined by a roll-off. So cool to see. But let's talk about the changes overall. Let's revisit how you guys are feeling. You said at the top of the episode that you're both feeling warm, and there's some things you're excited about, as well as some things that you're a little leery of, you want to see play out. So Zach, for you, that was the tokens, and I think that's for all of us, what you're leery about. Interested to see more on. Phil, for you, it's where Underdog pans out, and for me, it's where deck building is going to land as a result of our FAR. Anything more to add on those feelings now that we're through the ep?
I think just the Zarbag stuff that we've already hit on ad nauseum.
Yeah. All right. Well, any final thoughts? We'll go once around the table in the old Davy style here.
I think we covered it. This was a long one.
This was a long one.
Thanks for sticking with us, everybody.
Agree. Okay, so on that note, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so via whatthehexcast@gmail.com. Reaching us by email is one of the best ways to directly reach us. Other than that, is joining our Discord and jumping in, chatting with us. We love chatting with everybody that shows up as a result of hearing us in the episodes, inviting them over. Best way to find a link for that Discord is at themortalrealms.com. And check out all of the network content there, as well as all of our backlog. Again, that's themortalrealms.com. Coming up next, we have an exciting breakdown of the Canadian raiding party, as it was being affectionately referred to by Brian. Brian, Bobby, and Alex did a track up to play in the CTC there, and I won't spoil the results, but they're excited to tell you all about their trip, and so tune in next time to hear about that. Before we close out, I have a flavor text quiz for you. Are you two ready?
I certainly hope so. There's a lot of cards.
All right. I'm hoping this isn't a repeat, but here we go. This is by Gorlock Black Powder. Keep your cold dead mitts off my ga.
Off my what?
Off my ga. I think the insinuation is gun here, but it's definitely M-GAUH exclamation.
I believe Emmett pointed out this flavor text to me at League Night. I believe this is mobbed.
This is mobbed. Got it in one.
I know he shows up on a surprising number of cards, so I actually was not sure where this one was going to go.
He's quite the influential pirate, isn't he?
Yeah. Getting out there.
All right. Well, we have a recommended listening for you that has come in from our very own Davey, and that is It Must Change by Anoni. If I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I actually looked it up because I wasn't sure either. It apparently is Anani.
Anani.
That tracks.
ANOHNI, and we'll have that linked as always. Thanks for listening. This has been What the Hex, and I've been Skyler.
I've been Phil.
I've been Zach.
Yeah, well, so hold please. All right. I'm hoping this isn't a repeat.